Fighters and factions catching action.
And welcome back, everybody, to a new episode of Finishers and Factions Does Monday Night Raw. This week, myself, Rich, and my co-host Adam, welcome in, Adam.
Hi, mate.
Are going to be breaking down the episode from Buffalo, New York, the Monday Night Raw after Elimination Chamber. If you haven't had the opportunity to listen to our Elimination Chamber breakdown, you have 3 episodes of absolute awesomeness to sit and watch, or sit and listen to, sorry. They're on
100%.
our back catalogue, but yeah, like I said, this week we're in Buffalo doing Monday Night Raw. It's the Raw after Elimination Chamber, and well, I didn't think after Elimination Chamber it could get any more intense. And then Monday Night Raw sneaks up and slaps us right in the face 2 days later. I don't know about you, Adam, but I thought this was a hell of an episode.
I mean, we've got to remember we are well and truly now on the road to WrestleMania, and now we've come past Elimination Chamber. We are looking down the barrel at 2 nights of back-to-back, like, just wrestling heaven, essentially.
Not only have we already found out some of the matches that we've got going into this already, where we already knew that Jey Uso was gonna fight Gunther at WrestleMania. We knew that Charlotte Flair was going after Tiffy Stratton at WrestleMania. We've already had some matches kind of put together, and then with Elimination Chamber showing us that John Cena was off to WrestleMania to go and face Cody Rhodes.
And we knew that Bianca Belair was going off to face either Rhea Ripley or Io Sky.
That match is our main event of the evening, and if you want to skip to it, I'd go to the last sort of like 20 minutes of the podcast and give it a listen. But wouldn't spoil 100%. It too much for yourself. But we actually get to start off with a gentleman that I say me and Adam have been massive fans of this guy for a long time, and we get to see CM Punk come down into the ring. Well, he doesn't even do the ring, to be fair. He walks around the outside of the ring, clears everything off the announce table, and then sits in his pipe bomb position there. And it starts basically telling us that he's got a microphone in his hand and he's going to use it.
Yeah, Punk describes this as he's giving a State of the Union address, which is sort of a very American way of looking at things.
Promo that's about to get them cancelled off Netflix.
Well, apparently Netflix are quite strict on what they will and won't allow, sort of thing. So it could very well be it could very well be the case. But Punk has not got his sights set on anybody in particular to begin with, as he's basically just saying to the crowd, like, fucking throw out some names and we'll start there and work our way around. And the first name that comes to the Second City Saints' ears is The Rock, the bald fraud, which I took particular enjoyment in, actually.
As soon as that first line came out, as soon as he started picking on Rock, he set the tone for what we were about to get. And what we were about to get is a classic CM Punk pipe bomb moment. And we've seen him over the years in pro wrestling. Ironically enough, the last one he cut was about John Cena too. As they went into, was it SummerSlam?
Possibly, something along those lines. You've got to.
Yeah, we're talking sort of like 15 years ago. I think it was SummerSlam that Cena went against John Cena with and ran out with the title at the end of it. No, Punk went against Cena with, sorry. But yeah, so he comes down and calls Dwayne a bold fraud and adds that just because he's on the TKO board, he ain't getting away from any criticism. And then after kind of... say he's not desperate enough to wear a fake title and call himself the People's Champion when Punk's earned his his accolades. And to be fair, I think over the years Rock has too. Just now, the only essence we see of the Rock is, oh, it's WrestleMania. Yeah, go on, then, boys. We'll go back to the WWE for a few months. We'll make another couple million, and then we'll go back and film another movie that goes straight to DVD.
Yeah, this is it. It's I mean, it's standard fare for The Rock now, but coming back in a heel position is something we haven't seen before. Normally, we see him come back. He does the finally and runs his normal shtick in a couple of cities, drags a bunch of numbers in, and then fucks off back to Hollywood again.
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, we're not in the Attitude Era anymore. We don't need Rock. Professional wrestling has advanced so much in the time Rock's been in Hollywood that I think he's more concerned that professional wrestling needs him, where actually professional wrestling is probably better off without him in most circumstances these days. Don't get me wrong, we've had a hell of a storyline with the Bloodline stuff where he was at Mania last year. We're getting another decent storyline this year. It is just a Mania thing. It's kind of like, oh, numbers are dropping. Netflix hasn't quite worked. We'll bring in The Rock. And then, yeah, Cena, Punk finishes ripping Rocky a new Rocky Road and moves on to, the man that no one can see, basically stating that, no one else can see you, but I can see straight through you. And
he basically starts saying that Cena's given up. The words that he's touted for the last 25 years of hustle, loyalty, respect are now just completely meaningless because of how he's behaved. Which, do you know what? I can't really disagree with him on.
No, you can't. But then this is something that professional wrestling fans have wanted for the last, I'm going to say 15 to 20 years. Because obviously Cena came into WWE as a heel, made his way through all these years where he's not even tried to be the babyface. He's just ended up being that fan favourite that was always there because week in, week out, he bought that same hype. And it doesn't matter whether it was, Raw, SmackDown, if he, wherever he went, whatever city in America it was, you knew what you were getting. John Cena was going to come down and defend a title. Whichever title it was that he was holding at the time, he was going to come down and defend a title, or he was going to come out and he was going to cut a damn good promo. And it's one of those, as a professional wrestling fan, to be able to turn around and say that you were in the arena when Paul Heyman cut the ECW promo, when CM Punk cut that pipe bomb, that the Cena promos we're going to get now, and I'm not talking like this when he stands on the mic for 5 minutes after a match or whatever. We're going to get that quality promo all the time, I think. Well, on the times we see him, because where we're not going to see him a huge amount anymore, we're getting everything professional wrestling fans have ever wanted from John Cena's character for a year. So there's going to be a lot of things they can push with that move. I've seen one saying that he's going to stop showing up at shows, he's going to stop the Make-A-Wish stuff for a little while, and he's going to basically just stop doing the hustle, loyalty, respect thing and just completely reverse that gimmick and see where it goes. Because no matter what happens, they can always bring him back as a face and everyone will accept him back within that section because of who he is and what he does. This is the guy who's done the most Make-A-Wishes ever.
See, I'm not entirely sure that at the minute they'd have to they because he's on his farewell tour. I think this is what we're going to see from Cena now. It's going to be the rest of his year-long farewell tour is going to be heel Cena. we're not going to see him brought back as a babyface. It's just not going to happen.
Unless it
No
doesn't
way.
work. But I mean, it already has. Like, I've seen people on social media talking about wrestling that I followed for years that never mentioned they were pro wrestling fans. I follow people on social media who are wrestling fans that have put in on social media that they've gone to work, and normally the topic of conversation is football or rugby or the latest OnlyFans model or whatever. He said, never have I heard some of these colleagues talk about John Cena. He's like, this what has happened has just elevated such a massive hype around professional wrestling from people that weren't necessarily anything to do with it now. May have been sort of 10 years ago, but don't even think about it now. Even to the point where you've had, was it MJF from AEW? I've seen interviewed by Chris Van Vliet. And even he turned around and was like, oh my God, it was amazing. And he's like, of course we all watch it. He said, you wouldn't be a lover of professional wrestling if you didn't sit and watch professional wrestling, even as a professional wrestler. Like, there's still people that we look up to, friends that we work with that still work in different promotions. And I think what we're getting with this is going to be a pull through of everything that Cena's done, with a few of the bits from outside where his influences are now. And that's going to be an interesting road to follow for the last year.
Yeah, whereas I'm, as much as you say they have the option of bringing it back with the impact that this has had,
it would
really don't.
They wouldn't. Leave it a few months, but they'd be wasting a lot of time.
I was going to say we wouldn't get a year long. I mean, there's an argument to be made that so far it's been a pretty piss poor year long start to his year long farewell tour, to be quite honest. But regardless of that, it's a case that now that he's turned heel, he shocked the world, not just the wrestling world, the world.
Yep.
In his heel turn, they can't just simply flip flop on it and go back and expect everybody to sort of take it. I can't think of how they would write the storyline to say, oh yeah, sorry guys, I goofed when I completely demolished Cody Rhodes to within an inch of his life.
Well, yeah.
On a stage as big as Elimination Chamber. Just no. It ain't gonna happen. We are gonna see a year of heel Cena. We've seen 25 odd years of face Cena, whether it was intentional or not. We have seen a year of that. We've seen years and years of that. We're going to see something that we've never seen before, or we haven't seen in a very, very long time. And I just don't think he's going to go back to that.
No, I mean,
Doctor of Thugonomics, that Doctor of Thugonomics role, because I'm sorry, he'd have to keep the baseball cap on all the time because the shine off the bald spot is going to create glare off the cameras.
Yeah, if any of you guys have seen how bad my hairline is on my live streams, Cena has got 20 years on me, granted, but holy damn, that thing, yeah, Seth was right, that thing needs its own postcode.
Well,
is it Seth or Punk? Someone made the reference about him needing his...
That was Drew McIntyre.
Oh, fuck me. I've had some great calls the last few weeks, and I fucked that one right up.
It's all right. We'll forgive you. But while you mentioned Seth,
it's at this point
that CM Punk turns his wrath to Seth, because again, if you haven't listened to our coverage or seen Elimination Chamber, fair warning, probably about to spoil a big part of it for you. Obviously, during the men's Elimination Chamber, essentially Seth stole or robbed Punk of any chance he had of winning that chamber match by curb stomping his face into the chamber floor, basically.
It was the steal, but Punk sold that. I thought he was dead. Like, after that stomp, I thought he was dead.
We know that Punk will sell.
Oh yeah, you just don't expect him to sell Rollins, because those two generally do hate each other. That's not an on-screen thing. That's a they generally do absolutely fucking despise each other.
Yes, but they both love the business, regardless of their personal feelings for one another. They're two professionals. They will always sell for one another. They might lay in a few rough hits here and there, but I mean, ultimately they're not going to forgo the
not
performance.
Going to damage the business. No, I mean, all I got from his little entrance on Seth Rollins was that he told Becky Lynch to come and get her man, or he's going to put him in a wheelchair. Now, this goes back to some social media stuff. I don't know if you saw it, Adam, where someone posted online that CM Punk's ring gear looked very much like Roxanne Perez's. And then I'm not entirely sure what Becky put on Twitter. I didn't see her tweet, but she deleted it very quickly afterwards. But yeah, that was definitely a response to. There was a response to that one, but it was the only thing I got from that was Punk telling Becky Lynch to come and get her man, and there's just me sat there hoping, and I don't even know why, because I knew it wasn't going to happen, but just hoping Lynch's music would hit.
Well, somebody's music definitely hit, and it wasn't Lynch's. We were all told to burn it down as Rollins' music hit, and these two unstoppable forces collided as
Punk
Rollins' music hit. Punk dropped the mic like it was on fire and hightailed it towards Rollins, where just an out-and-out brawl ensued that required. I'm pretty sure they had to draft extra officials in. I'm not sure where they got them, but it's a case that they drafted officials in from pretty much anywhere they could have possibly got them. Because I think both Rollins, by the time they'd managed to separate this, or attempting to separate this brawl, there were 8+ officials for both Rollins and Punk each. This brawl was just complete chaos to start Monday Night Raw, which is
it's always a good way
actually
to
quite
have
a nice change.
Yeah, I like a nice bit of chaos to start Monday Night Raw. Well, I like a little bit of chaos to start any WWE show, to be fair. It definitely beats having to listen to Michael Cole. I do enjoy listening to Pat McAfee though, but
yeah,
these two were not going to be separated at all, and this is where I say about their real life heat as well, because of how much personal problems they have. When you've put them in this role, they're not playing a role, they're just being them, and the chemistry between them within this fight and the shouting and the like the trash talking and stuff like that, it's the sort of thing they would have done. Like this is believable, because you can expect this to happen in the cafeteria or on a bus somewhere or in a gas station or a service station or an airport, because of how much they dislike each other. This was so well done. This was perfect.
But this is what makes a decent promo, is if you've got real world heat to bring into it, it's a case that you're always going to get that better on screen reaction, because they're not acting, they're not playing a part, they genuinely dislike one another.
And it definitely helps sell a storyline, and it definitely helps sell that storyline at least. Obviously, we know.
I've been sat watching some of the WWE show that they've recently released, LFG, Legends and Future Greats.
Any good?
And it's one of the things. Do you know what? Actually, I've watched the first episode before we started recording, and really enjoyed it.
Okay,
Solidly, really enjoyed it
might give it a
because
look.
it's there's no storyline involved or anything like that. It's just
Wrestling.
it's the business.
What Saturday Night Main Event used to be then? So no storyline, no promos. It was just exhibition matches of people wrestling.
Sort of, but it's more behind the curtain than that.
Oh, nice.
You've still had an element. There was still an element of kayfabe in with Saturday Night's Main Event.
Yeah.
But yeah, they weren't any main roster storylines or anything like that. It was just exhibition matches. But these guys are all competing for an NXT contract, and it's just really interesting to see sort of watch them even just in the first episode how they develop, and the matches that they put on between them are actually some of the. I watched the first episode, the women's match. I'm not going to give too much away, but the women's match, even the experts were like, yeah, they pretty much blew the guys out of the water, and they did have a really solid match for what you shown. Like, wouldn't have been out of place in NXT, or even like an exhibition match, a dark match within a SmackDown or a Raw taping sort of thing. It was really well polished.
Oh, that's fair
for
enough.
The first episode. So yeah, but yeah, so these guys basically were completely it was an impossibility of being able to separate them, but they managed to get them both to the back. I imagine probably separated them throughout the arena, sort of thing. And
you stay that side, you stay that side, you do not move.
Yeah, pretty much. And we went from there. I've got down that we went from there into an Elimination Chamber recap of the Cody Rhodes.
There was a little VT in between those two, but it was all. Wasn't anything storyline adhesive or anything like that. It was basically just saying about WWE World in Las Vegas, WrestleMania week. And
yeah.
I think, if I remember correctly, they announced or confirmed that main event Jey Uso will be at WWE World in the build up to his match against Gunther at WrestleMania. And then, we got an Elimination Chamber recap of the Women's Elimination Chamber.
So I've got down here that it was the Elimination Chamber recap that we got was the Cody Rhodes promo, the social media reactions on Cena's heel turn.
The one we see about 9-10 times during the course of this episode. Before this episode, we got to see oh, well, I didn't win the Royal Rumble, but I'm off to Elimination Chamber and I'm off to win my 17th world title so I can shake the hand of the guy who wins 18. Yeah, no, this time we get to see Cena kick Mr. Rhodes in the genitalia multiple times.
Yep.
Actually, that many times that if they took them all out, they could have fitted in another match. It was definitely one of those. And then we got a recap from so you got the Elimination Chamber recap, which obviously was the Cody Rhodes being kicked in the nuts. We then got another recap of the women's tag match where Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez won the tag team titles from Naomi and Bianca Belair. I believe that was the Raw before Elimination Chamber.
I wanted to say it was the SmackDown before Elimination Chamber, but you might be right with the Raw, actually.
But either way, the week before Elimination Chamber, those tag titles changed hands. And then, if I remember correctly, we went into a backstage thing with the Judgment Day.
Yeah, so they sort of tied in the the recap VT, and then we cut to the Judgment Day clubhouse, as I appear to have taken to calling it. And yeah,
It's
we're
ironic,
basically
really,
seeing.
considering they're all Mickey Mouses.
Yeah, well. But yeah, we see Finn Balor sort of purposely separating himself off from the rest of the main group, and yeah, just sort of being, even when he does come and join everybody else in the clubhouse, it's a case that he's just being really sort of passive aggressive. I wrote down that he's genuinely just being a pissy bitch.
Yeah, he was probably a little bit hungry and could have done with a Snickers, because he was definitely not being himself that time. It kind of, we got the general recap I got from this Judgment Day promo was that not only Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez the first 3-time women's tag champions.
Yeah.
We also find out a little bit more about the injuries that Liv Morgan received from that absolute whip of hair that Bianca Belair hit her with in the Elimination Chamber. And some of the marks that were left were absolutely ruthless. Like,
yeah,
even
that braid is lethal.
Yeah, well, we've spoken about it in the past. I've seen some photographs that Liv Morgan put on social media after, like, the next day, and the welts and the cuts that a woman has from that match was, oh mate, the fact that she went into a Monday Night Raw 2 days later was, yeah, I wouldn't have been there. I'd have been at home in my bed, kind of going, oh, it hurts every time I move. It hurts.
Yeah,
And
pretty much.
finished off with the live segment of this section, live section of this segment, saying that Raquel Rodriguez should go for the Women's Intercontinental Championship.
I mean,
do we want to see that match?
I can't see it myself.
I can't see. I mean, the fact they've given her a tag title is one thing. It's only because Liv Morgan carries her through most of her matches. I do not see the appeal with Raquel Rodriguez at the moment.
She's not strong enough to stand on her own.
No, her character's not.
Yeah, the character development just isn't there. They haven't put the time in with her.
Yeah, as a person,
which is a bit of a shame.
She's definitely got some ability, a lot more than I have, don't get me wrong, but maybe not quite the level you'd expect from a champion.
Yeah, see, you sort of took more variety out of this little promo. I focused mainly in on Balor for this one because, and I've sort of seen since this Raw since this Raw aired, and I've taken my notes for it. It's a case that I've seen some bits and pieces for other people, let's call them social media pundits online, where they're sort of thinking the same thing as me, and it's a case that Balor is sort of slowly starting to remove himself from the Judgment Day. So I think we're going to see Balor and the Judgment Day go off in another. They're going to go their separate ways, and
I'm hoping that ends in a match with Dom versus Finn. To be fair, because I think that could be an interesting one.
Well, I think that's how they're going to separate Finn Balor out. But the interesting thing is that obviously, I think you may have mentioned it on one of our previous episodes more recently, is that we keep seeing little hints of a familiar Balor character that we haven't seen in quite a while, which is the Demon King Finn Balor, with all the face paint and everything like that. The Finn Balor we used to seeing.
Rich called another one.
I've got a feeling that we are going to see a return, and that's how he's going to break away from the Judgment Day. But there's an interesting theory that he won't stay on a singles run. He'll instead end up going and joining another group.
Well, we only see the Demon Finn Balor from a face Finn Balor. So yeah, he'd have to have a face turn to be able to get away with using it. With Judgment Day currently being more of a heel faction than a face faction.
Yeah, this is it. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with that one.
I did get a little bit here that Finn Balor seemed quite himself, and Liv Morgan asks him if he's okay, and he just kind of replies with Dom embarrassed himself last week. And Dom replies about, well, let's face it, dude, you had the chair in your hands and you still couldn't finish the job. Which was an interesting one. That's referring to Finn Balor's match against, I want to say it was Braun Strowman.
So this was in reference to how the Bron Breakker Dom Mysterio match ended last week.
That's the one.
Because we had Carlito and Finn Balor out to support Dom Mysterio, and in fairness, Dom Mysterio would have been absolutely laid out in seconds had Finn Balor and Carlito not been there.
It's not the first time we've seen Braun Breakker break Dom Mysterio in half, though. So
yeah, but that match ended basically. I think it ended DQ in the end, that match segment ended with Finn Balor backing himself out of the ring whilst holding a chair in the face of having to swing that at Bron Breakker.
Yes, because that move had been reused when they had Punk and Orton facing off each other and against each other in the ring in Punk's first run with the company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I remember that now. One thing I am definitely not going to remember, and that is our first match of the evening, which I actually thought I'd get a little bit more from, but we had the first match of the evening was Gunther versus Otis, and I've got this down as a title match, but I don't think it was a little bit later on. No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a title match, although in fairness, we have seen when a heel champion goes towards WrestleMania and they start having these singles matches with unrelated parties like Otis and the rest of Alpha Academy. It's a case that they have they do normally put their title on the line, and it starts to get a bit dicey when they have to really start to defend themselves, as we see sort of Gunther do in different sort of areas of this match. It's a case that during this match, it's a case that Otis puts up a really good fight.
You know what, actually? And I was watching this kind of going, yeah, come on, mate, come on, you can do it. You can do it. Just because, for whatever reason, can you have imagined how nutty it would have been if we'd have got Jey Uso versus Otis at WrestleMania in the main event? Like,
I don't think it would ever be a WrestleMania event, if I'm honest. I think we'd probably see it at another pay-per-view.
Oh yeah, we'll see it at some point, but that's what I'm saying. Can you imagine that like Jey Uso versus Otis for a world heavyweight title at WrestleMania? And because the title matches they are billed, that just would not be sellable. So we knew Gunther was gonna keep hold of it anyway, even if it hadn't been a title match.
Yeah, this is it. And I mean, Gunther, before this match even starts, realistically, Gunther comes to the ring with a mic in his hand, which we've come to learn from previous weeks means that he's probably going to end up giving some very thinly veiled insults.
Yeah, Gunther's ability to insult someone is pathetic. You can tell that guy never played Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the original, because he would not have lasted in those lobbies with the promos he cut.
See, I've never had an issue with Gunther's ability to insult. It's just a case that he does it in a very nice guy sort of fashion. He is a very sort of passive-aggressive bully, but he's not necessarily that passive-aggressive. I
did find it funny how he was getting at Otis for being a big lad. Right, if Do you not remember what Gunther looked like 2 years ago?
Yeah, this is it.
Gunther
I
has
mean,
lost a
don't get me
lot of
wrong.
weight and done a lot of work in the gym in the last 2 years to look the way he does. And trust me, he looks better than I do. But yeah, he's commenting on Otis being a big boy, and he used to be a really big boy.
Yeah, this is it. I mean, sure, I've got the note down for this somewhere. Da, 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 da. So they make a reference at one point. Yes, so the win for the result for this, as we've already said, Gunther wins via pinfall after an impressive power bomb on Otis, who is £330. I
Yeah.
incidentally
What,
exactly the same weight as Ivar from the War Raiders, the current Raw Tag Team Champions, but I wanted to try and find something to equate £330 because I'm English.
yeah, that don't mean much to me as
Pounds
an
don't
Englishman.
mean pounds don't mean fuck all to me unless you're talking money. Um, so Otis, if he's £330, is the same. What is essentially equivalent to an adult male giant panda.
Just not as cuddly.
I don't know. I reckon he'd give you a fucking good cuddle. To be fair.
I was talking about the panda.
Well, yeah, there is that too. But yeah, it's a case that I had to try and find something to equate that to because yeah, the fact that the WWE has always worked in pounds, and I know the only way it means something to me generally is if is obviously the higher the number, the heavier it is. That is about as much sense as that makes to me.
Yeah, no, £330 is a fair chunk of weight.
Oh, 100%.
We did get notified during this match that they had a nearly sold out arena of 13,602 in attendance.
Yeah, this was the KeyBank Center in Buffalo, New York.
Yeah, there is another. There is a sports team that calls it home, but off the top of my head, I can't work out who it is. Well, I don't know who it is.
Yeah, I'm not 100% certain off the top of my head without looking into it, to be fair.
Oh, it's the home to the Buffalo Sabres of the National Hockey League. And the KeyBank Center is the largest indoor arena in Western New York, with a seating capacity of 19,070. So when they said they had a nearly sold out arena of 13,600, bearing in mind they have to take out a load of seats for the ring and all the backstage and stuff, they're probably not far wrong, to be fair.
Yeah, this is it. But yeah,
We went
it's also
from
home to the Buffalo Bandits, the
NBA team.
of the NLL, which I think is the National Lacrosse League.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've only ever had one experience with lacrosse, and that was in high school.
High?
And I ended up with a 4-day suspension from that particular PE lesson. So yeah, no, I wasn't allowed to participate in the rest of them.
Fair.
Apparently, tripping people over is not within the rule set, but quite funny when you do it on the outdoor or weather hockey pitches. It's like gravelly gravelly sort of dirt, mate. Yeah, no, that was painful.
That is how you end up with a lot of scraped knees.
Yes, definitely. So after this match finished, we ended up with So the other members of Alpha Academy kind of try to come in, not entirely sure what this next bit was really for, to be fair, but as Gunther ends up locking in a sleeper hold on Tozawa again, which gets interrupted, and then there's another power bomb onto Otis from Gunther before Jey Uso comes running out to save Otis from a third power bomb. But Gunther pretty much has already knows Jay's coming at this point. You can kind of anticipate it. Where you see one, you see the other at the moment. So he lays a bit of a beat down onto Jay. Jay reverses it and ends up hitting him with a spear. And then he kind of raises the title above the Gunther who's lying in the middle of the ring. And which kind of, it says, we're told by commentary that in 47 nights we are going to have that WrestleMania match between the two of them. And then Theory and Waller came running out. Now, I couldn't really think of why we'd see Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. And then we were informed by Michael Cole, they came out and attacked Jay because they felt that he embarrassed them last week when they were trying to call him out and tell him that no one likes him and everyone thinks he's going to lose.
Yeah, so this, it sort of is what it is with this one. It's a case that Grayson Waller, Austin Theory felt fucked off that basically Jay had managed to knock Grayson Waller's jaw around to the other side of his head with a super kick outside the trainer's room. And yeah, it just... I always feel particularly underwhelmed when it comes to A-Town Down Under. I mean, they had a really good match the other week in NXT, and I've just got an odd feeling that should they really have ever been moved from NXT in the first place? Probably not.
No, they've not really done a lot on main roster. They could probably have benefited from staying in NXT slightly longer, but hey, we're just two middle-aged men sat on a sofa discussing wrestling. We're not anything to do with wrestling. And they probably got, a half-decent storyline ahead coming up. But I'm not going to lie to you, neither of them really grip me and kind of go, yeah, you want to watch me wrestle? Yeah. No.
Yeah, this is it. It's
basically like the next generation's version of the Miz's.
Little bit.
Yeah, no, I'm not really a big fan of Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. So Jay gets a bit of fun in there. He hits a nice little spear. One of them, I can't remember which one it is. I think it was Austin Theory. He speared, and then we got some good old slaps locked around, and some yeet slaps they were described as, and all you heard was the slap and yeet from the crowd, until Gunther drops back into the ring, sneaks up on Jay and locks him into a submission, into a sleeper hold, isn't it? And puts Jay to sleep.
He puts him to sleep.
Oh yeah, kind of
night.
Oh yeah. He definitely went to sleep. That guy knew his chicken had been cooked that day. At which Gunther picks his title back up and holds it above Jay's unconscious body in the ring, which is a little bit of like, you're not doing that to me, mate. This is my title. I'll show you how to do it properly.
Yeah, which we've sort of come to expect from Gunther. He's not one to be one-upped, as it were.
No, definitely not.
So, yeah, but that feud intensifies on the road to WrestleMania, as we will see with so many other feuds that will likely develop over the next few weeks.
Did say he was going to make Jey Uso's life hell on the road to WrestleMania, and he's made a good start to keeping that promise.
I mean, he's also managing to make the Alpha Academy's life not very fun either. So he's sort of got a twofer in there.
Well, yeah, but it's all good in the hood. Talking about all good in the hood, though, we ended up going from that match into a promo of our match a little bit later on between Rhea Ripley and Io Sky for the women's world title.
Yeah, just sort of illustrating the history behind Io Sky and Rhea Ripley's little rivalry, I suppose, is probably the best way to illustrate that. We're basically, we're waiting on waiting on that for the main event. We don't go from that into another VT for John Cena's heel turn.
Oh, did John Cena have a heel turn? Oh, I missed that.
Did you not know?
Oh, well, where was that? I'm gonna have to go back and check out that podcast episode that I recorded and completely forgot about. Apparently,
yeah, apparently so.
Cena had a heel turn. God damn, what a surprise!
Yeah, I know, right? But the only reason I haven't made note of every VT they use in Raw, illustrating that heel turn that the man we can't see had on Saturday night. The only reason I've mentioned this one is because it then goes into a backstage interview where Kathy Kelly is interviewing AJ Styles, basically getting his reaction on John Cena's heel turn. And Styles barely gets a few words off before he is interrupted by Karrion Kross, who seems to be trying to get he seems to be trying to have as many hands in as many different pies as he can possibly get them at the moment, because we've seen him sort of stirring the pot with Sami Zayn recently and all the rest of it. And I've actually seen on social media, and I've actually seen Karrion Kross himself respond to this theory. It's a case that every time we see Karrion Kross,
I knew
his
this
hair
was
is
coming.
in.
Yeah, I was about to mention
His hair
this.
is. I was going to say his hair is in the same style as the person that he's interacting with.
Yeah.
So I've often joked on and off. I think on and off the podcast about AJ Styles having a soccer mom hairstyle.
I was just thinking of
Karrion Kross does his best impression of that there. Sami Zayn normally has his little twat knot at the beginning or at the top, and it's a case that we see that as well.
Well, you know if he's going to be getting into it with Randy Orton anytime soon, or if he's going to end up having to shave his noggin.
Yes, there is that. But yeah, it's well, Karrion Kross ends up. I think he probably ends up stitching AJ Styles up a good one here. To be honest with you, it's a case that he basically.
Well, he sets AJ up him for a match with Logan, didn't he?
Yeah,
he gets in AJ's head,
manipulator,
sets it gets AJ thinking that it's a good idea to call out Logan Paul for a match at Madison Square Gardens next week. And AJ goes off like, yeah, I'm going to go talk to Adam Pearce, yeah. And then you just go back to Karrion Kross, and he's like, oh, that was easy.
What? Yeah. And this is what Karrion Kross does. He gets in people's head.
Yeah, and he does it very, very well. But yeah, he completely mugged AJ off. So on that basis, we are working on that AJ Styles is going to face Logan Paul in what I'm guessing is just going to be a standard singles match next week in Madison Square Gardens. But it hasn't been confirmed by anyone at this point.
No. But we do go from this VT into the second match of the evening, which is actually the Women's Intercontinental Championship match, where we see Lyra Valkyria defend against Ivy Nile.
I threw in my notes here, and I don't know if you can hear it too, but when you listen to Ivy Nile's entry music, do you hear Kurt Angle's in there too?
Yes,
Yeah, cool.
and that is by design.
That is by design, right? That wasn't just me being stupidly baked, going, "Oh shit, I can hear Kurt Angle's." Oh, what's Kurt? No, it's not Kurt Angle. It's Ivy Nile.
No, because Ivy Nile uses the same entrance music, I think, as the American Made faction that Chad Gable's been leading recently.
Yeah.
And I think on one week in particular, they were coming out to the ring, and they even managed to get a "You suck" "You suck" chant from the WWE universe. So yeah, it's in there by design, and
Now,
there are reasons behind it.
I didn't get a lot of notes for this match, and I'm not 100% sure why. Because it was a good match. It was, to be fair, it was a great match. It wasn't particularly long.
There wasn't a lot of high spots for it, which is what me and you have a tendency to focus on.
Yeah,
so we focus mainly on like big power moves, or in some cases high flying moves. We tend to focus on the focal points of the match.
JR note taker. If JR would have gone, "Oh my god," I'm making a note of it. If he didn't, it normally just gets left by the wayside. But yeah, no. So we started off with a recap of Dakota Kai and her match against Lyra Valkyria last time, and how Ivy interrupted at the end. So basically, Ivy Nile comes down, tosses Dakota Kai into the rails, runs into the ring, pulls Lyra down onto the turnbuckle, whips a German suplex, whips her ass, and then basically just kind of wanders off. But she laid a beat down on the champion, and this time the champion's like, "Well, no, you don't just come into my ring and lay the smacketh down on me. We're gonna have a match for this." So we got a women's intercontinental championship match between those two. And so yeah, I didn't get a huge amount. I've got that Ivy's never held a WWE title. And then I've got that Ivy used the dragon screw from the second rope, which is something we've seen a lot being used by Stephanie Baker in NXT. So it was nice to see that one being used by.
And it was used to some degree of efficiency, as well as it seemed to cause obviously a tweak in Lyra's left knee, which continues just to sort of cause her issues throughout this match as it goes.
Yeah, I don't remember anyone saying about her having knee issues in the past, but I can imagine
but we've said this dragon screw move it's
lethal.
Brutal.
Yeah,
it's absolutely brutal. So if you're using that on either the left or the right leg, that leg's not going to be right for the rest of the match, realistically.
No, definitely
and
not.
that's if it's used correctly.
Yeah, you mistime that one. You are going to do a lot of damage.
Oh, 100%.
As someone who's got knee issues themselves, yeah, no, you try pulling that on me. If I couldn't get that right, you're going to mess my knee right up again.
But that dragon screw basically it could have been the absolute turning point in this match for Ivy Nile to have won, and just Lyra Valkyria was the better woman on the night, realistically.
And that was kind of shown by the fact that she retained her championship at the end of it as well.
But it could have so easily gone either way. And this is sort of the frustrating thing with Ivy Nile, is that fundamentally she is a phenomenal talent. Mm-hmm. She just doesn't seem at the moment to have enough to be able to get us to sort of inch herself over that finish line with it.
Yeah, no, I think with a rework and a slight push, Ivy Nile does have the ability to go a lot further up the card, like a lot further towards the top of the card than where she sits at the moment.
Maybe it's just not her time.
Maybe it's just not her time.
But both women had a fantastic match, as you said. Valkyria retained, and that was all they wrote on that one. So
we
then went into a
recap of old Chick Magnet, Punk, and Seth from their brawl earlier. And then we see Jackie Redmond backstage talking to a still very pissed off CM Punk. And then
it was Rollins.
She was talking to Rollins. That's right. And the reason I mentioned CM Punk was that out of the corner of Rollins' eye, he sees the second City Saint and makes a beeline for him. And all of a sudden, the carnage that we open the show with has restarted. It's absolute bedlam again, with those two trying to rip each other's head clean off and shit down each other's neck.
Yeah, pretty much. But we don't get as much sort of view of what happens after that, really, because they don't. It's to the best of my knowledge, looking at what I can see here, it doesn't look like they make much mention of it at all throughout the rest of the match. Or throughout the rest of the card, so it's not something that we really sort of come back to at any point.
No.
But we went from there, and we actually hit a familiar segment, which is where WWE sort of do a brief recap of their history in Buffalo.
This is quite an interesting history in Buffalo. So Raw has been held in Buffalo 18 times. This is the 18th time Monday Night Raw has been held in Buffalo.
And this was the 70th WWE televised event, which means it could have been Raw, NXT, main event, 205 Live, anything that could have possibly have been televised through WWE it's like the 70th one that they've done from Buffalo, New York. Now, before we launch into this next bit, I've got your notes in front of me, and I know that you've made a mistake with one of the next ones listed.
Which one have I made a mistake with?
Because I nearly made the same mistake. So one of the other things that they give us is that Buffalo has hosted 5 PLEs.
That is
the
true.
First one on the list was Fully Loaded 1999. It's the next one on your list that isn't actually a WWE pay-per-view.
Is it not?
No. Full Brawl 2000, I think, was I want to say it was an NWA pay-per-view potentially. It wasn't WWE, because I kept coming back to it because I'm guessing that you probably found the same list that I did. Because you've got all the other ones that I've got, and
it was WCW that did Full Brawl 2000.
There we go.
Because Goldberg's on the poster for it, along with Scott Steiner.
Yeah, and at that point, WCW was just the competitor at that point. But the others were spot on. The others that I found that your sort of match with me on. Great American Bash 05, Armageddon 08, Night of Champions 2011, and Battleground 2013.
Which was the one that we both messed up on. Well, the one I messed up on anyway.
I was going to say, I got it right.
Yeah,
I did my research properly.
All right. Bite me, I was probably waiting for you to come on to the PC to record another episode. So we then went from that section into a little bit of who's in the arena, mainly focusing on a gentleman called Dion Dawkins, who is the Buffalo Bills left tackle, showing off some mighty fine WWE merchandise and some Buffalo Bills gear as well.
Yeah.
And then we had a backstage segment with Adam Pearce talking to Seth Rollins, and Rollins is basically just saying like he wants this fight, and he's going to do to Punk what he did to Reigns, and he's going to make sure that Punk's not going to WrestleMania. So we then.
The exciting part of this was
we got to find out a new match for the Madison Square Gardens card. So next week we have a match between Seth Rollins and CM Punk in Madison Square Gardens with a stipulation.
Steel cage.
As Adam said, they are going mano a mano inside a steel cage, which means that's a no DQ match, right?
It is a no DQ match, and yeah, it's
there's stuff under the ring too.
Oh, yeah, just fantastic. Really looking forward to a match where we see Seth Rollins and CM Punk tee off inside a steel cage.
You know what though?
The Garden.
The Garden of all places with its WWE history is a hell of a place to have this match. Did you not think that's a WrestleMania worthy match? Punk Rollins steel cage.
It is, and that's what makes it so exciting for next week's Raw.
Yeah, it's just a standard Monday Night Raw, and we're getting WrestleMania quality matches, 5 weeks away from WrestleMania. So
the other thing that Adam Pearce does here is that he does make a smart play, and basically kicks Rollins out of Raw for the week and just says, you know what, fuck off, I don't want to see you. Don't come back, otherwise you're fucking done, basically.
I've had a few bosses tell me that over the years, Fuck off, don't come back, don't want to see your face ever again. Alright, boss.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah. We then ended up going to an in-ring promo.
One of your favourite people.
Yeah, we got to see Ludwig Kaiser, and we saw Ludwig Kaiser in ring, right? And then we went to a wonderful recap of Ludwig Kaiser and the fact that he attacked Penta. They've had the triple threat matches between himself, Penta, and Pete Dunne, and basically Kaiser is just gonna come out, demand everyone's gratitude because he feels that Penta shouldn't have the attention he's got, and he feels he deserves it, and Pete Dunne doesn't.
Yeah, it's very much Ludwig Kaiser tooting his own horn, basically, and he makes a very interesting vow to that if Penta doesn't basically stay out of his way, he's going to make what happened to Cody Rhodes look tame.
I mean, fair play to him.
If he thinks he can pull it off. But Penta
be a hell of a kick to the nuts.
Penta himself is not going to take that line down as he comes to the ring, and basically I cherry picked a few bits. One bit in particular was that obviously Penta and Ludwig Kaiser's beef started at Royal Rumble, when Penta managed to evict Ludwig Kaiser from the Rumble match when he'd only been in there for about 6-7 seconds, something like that.
Wasn't.
Sorry?
I said it wasn't long.
No, it certainly wasn't. But we got shades of Royal Rumble here with Penta taking Kaiser out of the ring over the top rope and then suicide diving out of the ring into Ludwig Kaiser and basically shutting his damn mouth.
Yeah, there's a few superstars I wish they would shut their damn mouths. Ludwig Kaiser is one of them.
One person we don't mind hearing from every now and again is our women's Elimination Chamber winner, who we hear from next in a backstage promo where she's
Talking to
basically
Kathy
talking about the
Kelly.
events. Yeah, talking about the events in the chamber.
Yeah, obviously recapping. If you haven't listened to the episode or watched the program, Jade Cargill came back, looked like she was about to lay Liv Morgan with one holy right hand, but instead laid an absolute beating down on Naomi, which you can hear the smile coming through the headphones at the moment. This motherfucker managed to call this a few weeks ago, where he said that
100%.
this happened. So yeah, it turns out it wasn't Liv and Raquel that took Jade Cargill out. It was Naomi. And
Now, we still haven't had this confirmed. Even Bianca says that she hasn't spoken to either Naomi or Jade in since Elimination Chamber. It's a case that she's as in the dark as we appear to be. Even though, yeah, I'm still saying that I've fucking called it from jump that it was Naomi. And yeah, Bianca's basically choosing to refocus herself, try and distance herself from this drama, the Jade Cargill, Naomi, Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez drama, and focus on the main event of the night. As the main event of the night basically says is directly impacting her and her WrestleMania. It's whether she's preparing to go on and fight Io Sky, or whether she's going on to and needs to prepare to take on Mami herself.
well, obviously with Mami being the current holding champion, she'd be preparing for Rhea, but with that big title match later on in the episode between her and Io, yeah, it could be anyone.
Exactly.
I suppose for Bianca, that's got to suck not knowing where she's going either.
She's got plenty of time to prepare, and it's not like either Io or Rhea are completely new entities to her. They have both have faced off previously. It's a case that they came up together, so they already know each other reasonably well. Okay. The other thing that I happen to notice, and I know for a fact that you won't have noticed this, is in the background before we start talking about Jade Cargill or anything like that. There are two superstars in the background that we spot. One of them is Maxine Dupree, part of Alpha Academy, and the other one is Natalia, who we've seen appearing quite a lot with Alpha Academy of late. She was in the training room last week when Jey Uso came to check in on Tozawa and Otis after Gunther's beatdown, and we've seen her for the second week in a row associating with members of Alpha Academy, even if it is just sort of passing. So I'm not sure if there is something developing there, but it was very clearly in camera shot, was off in the background, so it would have been a detail that some people may have overlooked, but still worth mentioning.
Right, well, from there, we got another VT about Cena's heel turn.
Oh yeah, I think I've heard about that somewhere. But this one was focusing on the different announced teams' reactions when the heel turn went on, which actually I thought was quite an interesting idea.
It was, to be fair. We've seen the social media aspects with all the big sort of influencers on social media basically giving their reactions, but yeah, to see the Spanish announce table always kill me. But yeah, the reactions from these tables were brilliant, absolutely hilarious. Obviously, at the time when it happened, it was like, oh, what the fuck? And now now we've seen them all. It's it's a couple of days. It's just been it's been hilarious. I've seen some quality memes as well with that boots to ghoulies.
Well, you see, I've seen it's more the like the young fans' reactions that I've seen. I saw one lad literally trying to clear all of the John Cena stuff out of his room, chucking it down the stairs at his dad. It was like, "Yeah, I'm getting rid of this shit, Dad. I don't want it no more." It's like, dude, it's just a storyline. It's like, no, I don't care. I'm not having it. It's real to me. God damn it.
Some people do get far too engrossed in it. But it's one of those. And then we get a conversation ringside between Michael Cole and Pat McAfee talking about Chad Gable's quest for Libra. And
going to a VT for that.
Yeah, we get that. We basically get like quite a cool little VT actually, kind of just he's walking around. I'm guessing it's Mexico. Really don't want to throw too many guesses out there, but asking people if they knew the photograph. We don't get shown the photograph, but it's like, hey, do you know this guy? And then he bumps into said guy in a random alleyway, which, you know, very porno-esque style vibes here. Like, just boom, there's the person you're looking for. And then who basically just kind of says to him, look, if you want to be Lucha, you need to become more Lucha. And pulls out a box, of which Chad Gable has to hand over a rather large sum of money to get his hands on the old box, but he's told that the power inside the box will be beyond his understanding. And then we come out of the VT to American Made stood in the ring, which was...
Yeah, so I've taken that VT as meaning that we're going to see a return of Chad Gable. Now, we have to sort of remember that Chad Gable set the rest of American Made, which is the Creed brothers and Ivy Nile, a challenge.
He wants to get gold while he was away.
Yeah. So far, we've seen that Ivy Nile hasn't quite been able to get the job done, and I would make the same argument for for the Creed brothers up to this point, as they had an ideal opportunity a few weeks ago, which I still maintain they completely fucked themselves out of.
That was when they DQ'd
no
themselves
reason.
in the title match.
Yeah, very
complete
much so.
Idiocracy.
They smacked out the War Raiders with their own title, which only benefited the War Raiders.
Which, with no mean feat, were their opponents tonight in a... If this was just a normal... Was this a title match, or is this just a normal tag match?
No, this was a title match. So match 3 was a men's World Tag Team Championship match, which saw Eric and Ivar, the War Raiders. And I noticed at least once during this segment, Michael Cole makes the same mistake that I usually make with the War Raiders and goes to call them the Viking Raiders, which was obviously a previous name for the tag team, which they're no longer using. Versus the Creed brothers, Brutus and Julius Creed. And one of the things we find out is it's actually, when this match is taking place, it's Ivar's birthday.
Yes, and when they asked him
quite a fun little detail
what he wanted for his birthday, he wanted to eat the Creed brothers alive. So, someone
judging by the size of him, I wouldn't put it past him.
Say someone in catering's not doing a good enough job if he's been in the catering truck and still looking to eat another person that's about 200 pounds in weight.
Yeah, this is it. But do you know what? I really wasn't mad at this match, considering how poor a showing the Creed brothers had the first time round. It's a case that I wasn't expecting a great amount from them this time, but it was very fast paced from the Creed brothers. There was a lot of quick tagging from them, keeping sort of the War Raiders off balance with that, and they
did a really good job, to be fair. I'm not going to lie to you. My notes for this match consist of 4 lines. 1 telling me what the match is, 1 telling me it was Ivar's birthday, 1 telling me the result, and the only major thing I got written down for this, because of how engrossed I got into what was going on, was that at one point in the match, Brutus hit a 450 frog splash, and Julius managed to hit a shooting star press, which is one of those moves that you do not see at all. And then someone pulls it out, does it really, really well, and I'm hoping he puts it back in the box now, because when he hit that, he hit it well. And I mean, really well. He connected it perfectly. The last person I saw try and pull off the shooting star press was Brock Lesnar, and yes, he's done it a fair few times, but we all remember that one time he didn't quite get it right.
We always remember the negatives, unfortunately, but I didn't get a massive amount more than you did for this match, and it was literally just because I sat there and enjoyed it. I couldn't really cherry pick any elements out without literally writing notes that were going to be a play-by-play of the match itself.
I feel guilty sometimes when I'm watching the programming, because we're watching it, we're making notes on it. Sometimes we watch certain segments 2-3 times, and like we do put a fair. I may not seem it with my notes some days, I will tell you, but we do put a fair amount of effort into what we're doing, and then I kind of sometimes forget just to enjoy what I'm watching, because by the time you've gone, that was big, I better write that down. And then you've paused the wrestling, you've typed down how you want to write it, and then you've gone back, rewatched it, just so if there's any more details you need, then it's like, all right, carry on to the next section. And you don't, because it's so cut and Mitch and match that you don't get time to it to flow. Sometimes it's just nice to go back and rewatch the match afterwards and be like, yeah, I know the win, but I'm going to enjoy this now.
Yeah, so I do see your point. It's a case that, like, for me personally, to sit down and watch, let's say, a 2.5-hour episode of Raw is probably going to take me upwards of about 4 hours to watch while making notes, because of the chop and change, or the stop and start, and I will, as you say, go back and watch certain segments probably 2 or 3 times while I'm making notes, because in the space of 2 minutes, so much can happen in a match or in a promo that if you're sat there watching and literally just watching, it's fine to absorb all of those different events. But if you've then got to try and sit and make notes about what's going on, it becomes a real bitch to do, because you're trying to get the detail down to be able to talk about it in a continuous flow without sort of taking away anything from the presentation. But just complete. It can be a complete nightmare.
Perfectly then. Talking about bitches, we had a conversation ringside between Michael Cole and Pat McAfee talking about Monday Night Raw's biggest bitch. I'm talking about Kevin Owens and his unsanctioned match against Sami Zayn at Elimination Chamber. We had a recap of their unsanctioned match, but it mainly focused on the return of Randy Orton and the brawl between Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. I say brawl. It was more of a push, shove, and an RKO onto Kevin Owens, who was then set himself up in the corner of the ring. Bearing in mind, he's just had a brutal unsanctioned match with Sami Zayn, and he's begging Randy Orton to come down to the ring still to come and get some. And you're like, what the fuck are you doing, my dude? Like, seriously, calm it down.
Yeah, so we also get told during this little segment that it's that basically Sami Zayn is out indefinitely due to sort of re-aggravation of that neck trauma that he suffered with the package pile driver. Basically, Sami Zayn did not come out of that the way that he went in, which we sort of knew was going to happen regardless. But yeah, it's indeterminate at the moment when Sami Zayn will be returning, and I don't like it when WWE use the term indefinitely, because the next promo they use they use that very same term with somebody involved in this next promo, which made it sound like he was freaking retiring, and he didn't, because he's back. Thankfully, I'm glad he's back, because again, one of my childhood favourites. But this is where we see a VT promo of. I've just literally kept this dead simple and said LWO, the Lucha World Order, or Latina World Order. I'm not entirely sure which one it falls under. I'm guessing the latter. Are basically clapping back at the New Day, who have been on an absolute tirade against them recently.
Yeah, so I've got that the LWO got stomped down by New Day, but they won't allow New Day to take their heart, their spirit, or their fire, and because New Day couldn't get the job done, and LWO are stronger, and then we see obviously Ray in the VT, and he says that him and Dragon Lee are going to make sure they have a very bad day when they face off in what I'm guessing is a pre-arranged match already behind, so no confirmation from Adam Pearce, but in a tornado tag match. So this is a little bit of a strange one. Normally with a tag match, you see one member of each team in the ring, the other member on the turnbuckle holding a bit of string, and they've got to touch their opponent like their teammate to be able to swap in and out. This one is not the case. So we have 4 people in a ring throwing down, like just completely throwing off. So we're going to have Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston versus Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee, just beating living crap out of each other. And because it's a specialized match type, it also means it's no DQ. So there's going to be an entire selection of tables, ladders, chairs, and trash cans, kendo sticks. We're going to see everything.
Yeah, so tornado tags are really not very common anymore. Well, not very common at all. We see obviously a lot of the standard tag, as Rich said, one person from each team in the ring at a time. Anybody else is normally left out on the apron to await them being tagged in. Tornado tag doesn't operate that way. There's no respite by tagging a partner or anything like that, and it's just not something we see WWE do very often at all. So I'm hyped for this match. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, so we went from that VT to an in-ring promo for Finn Balor and Bron Breakker.
Before I go too far, I'm just going to throw one last section on the end of that tornado tag match. The last one we had on WWE programming was on SmackDown on the 20th of September 2024, and we had a tornado tag match between Bayley and Naomi versus Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton. And if Bayley or Naomi won, the one scoring the fall would earn a WWE Women's Championship match at Bad Blood, but if they lost, the one who pinned would have to leave SmackDown.
Oh, right, okay.
It doesn't actually tell me who won that match, so that's why I haven't thrown that one in. But
no, fair enough.
I'm guessing it was probably Bayley's, the amount of time we've seen her on all of the different programs recently.
I would say so. But yeah, so not a tremendous. I'll still maintain it's not a tremendously widely used sort of match type, which is odd because I say odd. It's just going to be more chaotic. And again, I refer back to me and Rich having to make notes on it all. It's going to be a frigging nightmare to make notes on. But in terms of a match as a wrestling fan, fucking gassed for it. Absolutely.
It's going to be an incredible match.
But yeah, we'll digress on from that and talk about this in-ring promo between Finn Balor and Bron Breakker, because we sort of come back from a commercial and we sort of we're seeing this more and more at the moment, where we seem to come in part way through something going on, and we're sort of then left to play catch up with no help from.
It's not as bad as that
or anything.
NXT pay-per-view, the NXT programming where they were trying to put the NXT logo on the screen at the same time that someone was trying to cut a promo backstage, and it just kept glitching from one to the other and back to the first again.
Yeah, nowhere near as bad as that. That is an extreme example from, I think it was last week's NXT, actually.
I think so, possibly the week before. I want to say it was Kalani Jordan. Not Kalani Jordan. Jada Parker trying to cut a promo.
Yeah, and so it's we've got Bron Breakker, who's sort of up in the crowd. He's obviously been doing an arena side promo with Kathy Kelly, and Balor's in ring. And basically, Finn Balor, thinking quite a lot of himself, apparently, says that the only way that Bron's been able to hold on to his IC champ is because Judgment Day have allowed it.
I mean, he says that, and he's definitely, his cojones were probably bigger when he started saying it than what they were when he finished. Because at what point did Judgment Day think they're going to allow Bron Breakker to dictate, to be, at what point, does did Judgment Day think they're going to dictate to Bron Breakker what he can do? And Bron Breakker just breaks him in half.
Yeah, and long story short, that's what ends up happening with this, is that Breakker ends up coming down. Balor makes a claim that he's untouchable. Breakker makes his way down from arena side through the crowd to ringside, where we see sort of Carlito and Dom Mysterio seemingly appear out of nowhere, unsuccessfully managed to take out Bron Breakker.
Baited him down with the, when you're in the ring, the dogs won't be barking. They'll be watching the dog get put down or something, and Bron's just like, no, I'm done. Straight down to the ring.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I don't fully understand this like dogs barking thing that Bron Breakker's got going at the minute.
Bron Breakker played football for. I've got to try and make sure I get the right one. I believe it's Georgia, because their college university football team is called the Georgia Bulldogs, and I'm pretty sure that's where he played football. So the whole dogs thing is a Bulldogs reference.
Oh right, okay. So it's all football related.
There's a football link there, yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
As long as he doesn't start walking around calling himself the big dog, because someone's already tried that.
Yeah, I can't even remember who did that.
Who was walking around calling himself the big dog?
Yeah,
that would have been our tribal chief before he became our tribal chief.
That is a good point. Yeah, my brain decided nope. We're.
Can you remember who did the up dog gimmick?
No, my brain's gone.
Have you seen the up dog one?
I'm not falling. My brain isn't that gone.
Oh, it was worth a try. It was worth a try.
It was. It was. You're not wrong. Yeah.
Trying to get a duck do
basically. Balor basically, as you said, baits Breakker down to the ring. Tries to basically Balor starts a beat down that ultimately he was never going to be able to finish.
I did quite enjoy watching Bron Breakker military press Fred Balor. Like, you don't see it a lot, but you know that, yeah, Finn Balor's not a huge dude. Like, he's not Kane or big show, but he's still got some weight to him. And Braun Breaker just picked him up like he was a piece of paper, mate. Like lifted him up.
Finn Balor is almost pure muscle. There isn't an ounce of fat on the guy. I'm convinced of it. Because he is and always will be, as far as I can see. The guy's ripped. He is 100%.
He looks
pound for pound pure muscle.
You don't see him having a cheat day very often.
No, but somebody that probably wished he'd called in sick that day was Carlito, who ends up. I like how it's when Bron Breakker does a spear, it's not just a spear; it's a super spear. Which, I mean, IShow Speed is going to be able to attest to the fact that it probably feels like a super spear. As Carlito is inducted into the Super Spear Hall of Fame after Breaker tries one on Balor. Dom saves him. They're halfway up the ramp, and they've obviously forgotten Carlito was laid out at ringside. Carlito gets up, not realizing, and you just see this really evil-looking smile on Bron Breakker's face as he charges head first into Carlito.
Yeah, poor Carlito. Like he got fucking train wrecked. But I'm not gonna lie. I'd rather Carlito was on the receiving end of that train wrecking than me.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. But yeah, we went from there to another VT on Cena winning the chamber match, and basically this one culminates to we'll get a response from Cody on Friday Night SmackDown, and it was the only reason I made note of that VT in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, so I just made a note that there was another conversation about Cena's heel turn. We went from there backstage with Mr. Uso, our main event Jay, and Alpha Academy, and he says that it's pretty much that tonight threw him off his game, and he's got some stuff going on in his head, but only Jay can keep himself up, and he uses quite an interesting line. So he uses a Bible quote in the next one, and it says, he'll walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and he'll feel no evil, but he'll wake up a beast. And then we get that, was it one word, 4 letters? Yeah.
Yeah. It was a very different kind of promo that we've seen than what we've seen Jey Uso
quite an emotional promo
recently. I mean, the guy walks out into the Buffalo winter without a shirt on. That takes some cojones on its own.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the temperature was like that night, but you can guarantee that it was fucking cold. And
there was snow on the ground. It was always going to be a bit nippy.
No, that was just Jey Uso when he walked out without his shirt on.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I'm starting to wonder if it's difficult to tell if
cracking?
Jey Uso is sort of angry but confident, if he's angry but scared, or if he's just losing his grip on reality a little bit because of everything that
I think he's
Gunther's
losing it a
trying
little
to put him
bit.
through.
He's losing it a little bit, I think. Can't blame the poor guy.
I was going to say, does this mean that he's going to end up throwing away a golden opportunity at Mania, though?
I mean, you never know. You never know. But talking about Mania, we have one match left on the card, and that is our main event, which we've been talking about for a little while, which is our match between Io Sky and Rhea Ripley for the women's heavyweight title.
Yeah, the Women's World Championship, where we see Rhea Ripley defend, and we also have Bianca Belair making herself known at ringside.
Yeah, which is one of those things that she's obviously going to be facing the winner of this match at WrestleMania. So for her to be at ringside to keep a close eye on what was going on was definitely quite an interesting sort of side aspect to it.
Yeah, and I mean, going into this match, we're reminded again and again that sort of Rhea Ripley has never beaten Io Sky one on one, even though the last time they faced off was about 5 years ago. So it's a case that we haven't seen them tee off against one another in quite a number of years, which is odd considering you think the size of the women's divisions within WWE, you'd like to think that they'd have at least squared off once in 5 years, but apparently not. And yeah, it's a case that Rhea Ripley very much playing to her strengths early on. And just sort of trying to deal out a lot of damage, but Io Sky not really managing to get a foot in the game. It's a case that
I kind of expect Rhea to deal that damage, though. She's quite a powerhouse within sort of the wrestling, sort of like the women's division. And her main sort of her go-to, she can have a short, powerful match rather than the long, dragged out one. She's going to take that, and I generally think even though you can kind of see she's got some concerns about the fact that she's never beaten Io, you could tell it was just another match to her, and it was just another way of expressing her domination over the women's division within Monday Night Raw.
well, the question is, I mean, did she go into that match overly confident? I mean, she has had a phenomenal 12 months plus where she has achieved a lot and managed to do a lot of things that people didn't think she'd be able to do. Did she go into that thinking, oh, winning against Io Sky, it's just another barrier I can break down, I'm going to break down on my way to WrestleMania? I, it's it's a bit of an odd one. I mean, these two women, they came up together. They came up through NXT together. They came up onto main roster together, and it's a case that they know each other remarkably well. But
Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
Rhea Ripley basically trying to steamroll Io Sky, but Io Sky, while not getting much offense in, when she was landing hits, they were in all of the right places.
Yeah,
She
so
wasn't she wasn't
I
sort of hitting a lot, but she was hitting weak points
yeah,
a
I
lot.
got her down as hitting like a couple of code breakers, a couple of missile drop kicks, a few sort of bullet trains were attempted, but countered throughout the sort of first sort of like 5-10 minutes of the match. Like when she did get an opportunity to put some offense down, it like you said, it was tactical and it was hard hitting.
Yeah, she was basically trying to take as much momentum, as much wind out of Ripley's sails as she possibly could. And in fairness, every time she did and got the opportunity to do that, it's a case that she did so really well. I mean, at one point, she was even using moves from that we normally see from other members of Damage Control, which, I mean, we see this quite a lot where wrestlers will borrow each other's moves, but being able to pull off one after the other was quite impressive, realistically.
To pull some of them off better than Dakota Kai as well was even quite interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Um, but I've got a fair amount of notes here. I mean, I've got one here that says Rhea Ripley basically managed to pull off a massive angle slam from the top rope, but only managed to get out, sort of pull out a 2 count for that one. I've also got another one that says that Io Sky does a sunset flip power bomb into the barricade off the apron, which,
Yep.
I mean, looking at the size and weight ratios between Io Sky and Rhea Ripley, you wouldn't have thought somebody of Io Sky's frame and height would be able to do that to somebody an absolute tank in comparison
Yeah,
of
exactly.
Rhea
But you wouldn't
Ripley.
expect, Io Sky's. I mean, at one point she had Rhea locked in with the Asuka lock. Like when do you expect someone like Io to be able to try and submit someone as powerful as Rhea? You just don't expect it coming.
And I think that's part of what makes Io so dangerous as a competitor, is that she's got the nickname of the Queen of the Sky. She is known for her high flying. So realistically, if you're trying to play it smart, you're going to go in and try and keep her on the ground, take out a vertical base, and that's how you win a match against Io Sky. But Rhea Ripley wasn't thinking this way. She just viewed Io as another. I think I do think she sort of underestimated Io Sky and overestimated her own abilities in this one. That coupled together with something that happens towards the end of this match, just not playing very well into anything that went on.
Yeah, Rhea wasn't, for someone who was so confident going into the match. I think she realised she might have been in trouble, sort of like 3/4 of the way through. I'm not sure whether she was gassed or what the problem was, but you could tell that her body language changed, and she was like, "Shit, I could actually possibly not win this."
Yeah.
And at that point, Io just turned the gas on. I've got.
At one point, Io was pretty much down and out. I mean, at one point during the match, Io Sky narrowly avoids being ring outed. Being counted out of the ring, but only managed to avoid it because of some encouragement from Bianca Belair,
Which pissed Rhea off massively and got Rhea into Bianca's face.
Yeah, I mean, Rhea has always thought of Bianca as an ally, as a friend. It's not a case that she's ever thought, do you know what? Bianca, I mean, it's revealed later on that her and Bianca coming up through NXT were talking about like the day will come when Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair on the main stage of WrestleMania, and you can't deny how this looks when you've got Bianca Belair there shouting encouragement to Io Sky, who could potentially be a opponent at Mania after this match.
I'd rather face Io than Rhea, though.
Yeah, and that's how it comes across for Bianca as well. I mean, it's either one are going to be a tough mountain to conquer sort of thing, because they're both, well, one's a current world champion with former championship reigns behind her. Io Sky is a former world champion in her own right. It's that then neither of them are going to be sort of easy matches to get over.
Well, no, exactly. They're both going to be very, very heavy, intensive matches. So it's not something I'd want to be doing.
During the argument that ensued, I actually questioned the referee's call on this. Now, I know that referees get a modicum of discretion. It's basically what the referee says in the ring goes, to a certain degree. And I question, because at one point, Rhea gives Belair a shove. Then Belair gives Rhea a shove back. And I question, should the ref have called DQ on that at that point? Should the ref have called DQ at that point to basically say, hang on, it's one thing for Rhea to put hands on Bianca as an outside, an outside shot, but Bianca then puts her hands on Rhea Ripley at the same time, and she's not involved in the match. She's out there as a spectator, and DQ has been called for a lot less in the past. So I do question whether that was something that potentially we should have seen from the referee there for it. But the finish to this match. I mean, the match in general, I couldn't take my eyes off it. Absolutely adored how this match played out. As Ripley attempts a Riptide from the top rope, but Io counters with a Super Hurricane Rana, which was flawlessly done, by the way. I mean, we'd expect nothing less from the Queen of the Sky herself. And then we see Io Sky hits an over the moonsault to win the match.
Stick the icing on the cake to become. Well, Adam, take it away.
Yeah, she comes out of that match with the win, which was the one thing we didn't really expect to happen this close to Mania. It is incredibly unusual for the for titles to change hands on that final run to WrestleMania. It's not that it's never been done; it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, it's not a common thing to have done.
And we know now at WrestleMania, Io Sky will face Bianca Belair as her very first title defense of this reign. And
I'm going to be honest with you. I've got a feeling Bianca's going to walk out of WrestleMania with that one, with Io being the holder.
I'm not going to count Io out because they've got to be careful. They've got to be careful they don't fall into the same traps that they've done before. I'm not saying it definitely won't happen, because there is still a very real possibility that Bianca Belair walks out of Mania with a title over her shoulder. But at the same time, it's a case that Bianca's embroiled in all of this drama around Jade Cargill. There's no chance. Can't rule out that that's not going to play a part in the WrestleMania match at the same time.
Well, yeah, exactly.
There's so many variables here, but the big story out of this is that Rhea Ripley essentially has lost out on a chance of main eventing this Rhea's WrestleMania in Las Vegas, which was something we honestly did not see coming. And she does not take this loss well.
I mean, would you?
I mean, no. And ordinarily, we're used to seeing the champion blaming outside influence if there was outside interference, sort of thing. So she could have sat there quite easily and blamed Io for beating her, or Bianca for getting involved, or anything like that. But we see in an interview that was conducted once Raw had gone off air. I remember actually sending the video of it to you, Richard, when I saw it on social media. And it's a case that I've got an odd feeling that we're going to see a version of Mummy in the run up to WrestleMania that just has no self-confidence anymore.
It's definitely a very strong possibility. They needed to do some character development for Rhea. She's been a stable powerhouse for too long. Well, not for too long, but like I said, she's been champion for a long time. But maybe Io can give us a bit of a change with her ruler, like with her being in charge of the division. We might actually get some different types of things that we wouldn't necessarily have got from having Rhea in charge.
Yeah, I mean, all's possible, but at the point of broadcast, we are 47 nights away until the start of WrestleMania weekend. Now, I'm not 100% certain where that puts us for
21st of April.
For when we're recording this as it goes, but it's a case that so 47. So when we're recording this, we are 41 nights. I've got 41.
No, we're 40-ish.
Yeah, just over 40 nights away from the start of WrestleMania weekend, which, I mean, it's already shaping up to be an instant classic, let's face it.
It certainly is. But we will leave WrestleMania for when we get to WrestleMania. We've got the build-up to enjoy for the next 40-odd days, so that will be an incredible journey. And the first one we've done on the road to WrestleMania was for finishers and factions.
Yeah, definitely. And who knows? We may even come up with some ideas for some bonus content along the way. But we'll leave that as it goes. But it's a case that I think I've certainly run out of notes here. Rich, have you got anything else?
Nope, my notes are done, mate. My notes are finished. So I think
Right, in which case, I think it's time to sign off this episode of Finishers and Factions Does Raw. We thank obviously every last one of you for making it through to the end, and it's a case that, yeah, I mean, we've got our next episode that comes out will be Finishers and Factions Does NXT, which I mean, we've sitting here recording this. We've both already watched NXT. We know what happens, but we're really looking forward to being able to talk about it a little bit more because I think we're possibly going to see some very opposing opinions of how this all plays out. And there's definitely some bits and pieces to talk to. So we look forward to seeing you then. But I think for now we say farewell and see you all soon.
Peace out. Enjoy.
Bye.